All right, ladies and gents, welcome back to another week, another episode of the John X Mike podcast. It's John X Fire here, joined by Mike LaPhoenix. Mike, how you doing?
Very good, John. I'm glad to see you pointed the right way in the second time around. I'm doing very well, thank you. How you doing, John? It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it's been a bit. I think we had to stall out the episode by a couple of days. Been pretty tired. I've been going out a lot more than I would normally want to. I had a friend come in from Tokyo, so we had to meet up a couple of times. We went out for... I never told the story, but we went out for drinks, I think, on like Saturday. So it was only like a dinner thing. We were just supposed to have some dinner. Ended up one of our friends who was along reserved a table at some party. And it was a weird thing because we thought it was like an event, and I guess it was, but it was also like two birthday parties combined. So we ended up in this bar with like two huge groups of people celebrating a birthday, and we were just like, beyond our friend, we didn't know anyone there. So we ended up staying until like I think 3 a.m. We had like a few cans of highballs, like I don't know what those are, like a whiskey Sprite kind of combo in a can, or a gin and Sprite kind of combo. And we ended up staying a lot later. We ended up going to the usual eating spot when you're like kind of like tipsy. Drunk. And we had like I had drunk, tipsy. I don't think I was too drunk. I was definitely tipsy though. We had like something in the city called balbakwa, which is like a spicy broth soup. They had some fresh lechon kawali, which did you manage to try that in the Filipino restaurant? The deep fried pork belly. They had some fresh ones. We had a little rice, to sober up, and it was fun. I've actually never done that. In my 29 years of living, I've never actually stayed out till that late and had drunk food. I mean, I drink with my friends till like 3 a.m. before in college, but we were only in the dorms. We're like losers, just sitting around by our beds anyway, and just having a couple of beers, a few shots of whiskey, and just having a good time. But that was the first time outside. It was pretty fun. I'm been kind of tired socially. I'm not a very social person, Mike. You would notice. I tend to enjoy just staying cooped up. So that's been my week. It's been a lot more social. It's fun. Oh, there's a funny story. So right a few days after that, we went for dinner, I think on a Tuesday. So that was Saturday this week. We went for a Tuesday dinner again. And my friends dragged me out to drink in a bar. This time around, I wasn't looking forward to staying out because, we had casting the next day. We just did that whole Saturday thing. So we went down. There was one guy who's a friend of our friend who was there. It was the most interesting conversation I've ever had with a person. One of those conversations you're like, I can't tell if he's joking, and I'm not sure how this conversation is real, but that's a conversation we had. So I was like, okay, I'm bailing out at 11, and I bailed out. My friend took me home, and I'm just kind of socialed out, Mike. But it's all good. That social meter drains because we're just stuck at home casting anyway. So I'm doing all right. And what's new with you, Mike? There's always something with you every week, Mike.
I mean, there's been a lot of drama in the household as usual, John. I mean, I can't really go into it too much. It's one of those things where I think once I've moved out of this particular house that I'm in right now, I think I'll tell the story live on the podcast so everyone can have a laugh with us. But right now, being in the heat of it, I think I should probably, stay away from talking about this current living situation. Apart from that, though, things are pretty good, John. Good to hear that you've been out drinking. Something I wish I was doing as well. But, I unfortunately live very far away from anything right now. So that's kind of annoying. Don't have the luxury of just going to, a bar with a bunch of mates right now and just having a drink. Can't believe it's been 29 years, though, Don, and you've never actually gone out with a bunch of friends and just, gone for like a pub crawl or something. That's a bit... Dude, why not, John?
I'll defend myself here because during that time when a lot of my friends were doing it, I was in Singapore. And a night out in Singapore, a beer is like $10, like $10 to $15. I could not afford that. So me and my friends, we just buy stuff when we come in from duty free and we drink at the dorms because it's too expensive. So Singapore was not conducive to that kind of life. I mean, my local friends would do it. But me, it seemed ridiculous to spend $15 on a beer, you know? Like, that's like 400 pesos. That's 3 times more than a beer here in the Philippines. I was like, no way am I spending that amount of money for a night out. So, never did it. Looking back, maybe I should have, but I really actually didn't have the money to do so. So, you know, it's just not something. And now that I do have the money, we're 29, we're 28, turning 29, and friends are aging up. They've got responsibilities. They don't do it as much. So, it just kind of sailed past that period, Mike. You know, it is what it is. Singapore is just too expensive to really have a good night out unless you have a decent amount of money. Just the way it is.
I feel you, John. It's the same thing with Australia as well. Like I'm in Sydney, and this is the most expensive city in Australia right now, and I guess it has been for a very long time. And it does tend to get a little bit pricey when you go out, and especially if you go somewhere special, right? Like you go like a high end kind of bar, and you end up paying like $20 a drink or something.
Jeez.
It gets kind of stupid. Like if you go to the casino, for example, in Sydney, you just you buy like a Long Island iced tea, for example, right? Which is it's a drink where you could just get completely smashed pretty easily, and it actually tastes quite decent considering how much alcohol it has in it. But you're going to pay like $25-$30 for a cup of it, which is, it's ridiculous, right? It's not like a big fish bowl or anything like that. It's literally just a cup. But that's circumstances, Jonathan. We're getting old and inflation's getting worse and things like that. I did want to talk about some Dota issues here right now, Jonathan. And this is something that you and I have been talking about. I feel like every episode we have something to say about the current state of Dota or the DPC, and I feel almost bad that I'm going to bring this up again, right? But it's a bit different now because I'm going to be taking a topic of the Monkey Business podcast, which is from OG. I believe you, No Tail, and everyone else is there. A great podcast, by the way, if you wanted to go check it out. The Monkey Business podcast, I believe, is what it's called. Highly recommend you guys go have a listen. In fact, it's called the OG Monkey Business Show, excuse me. But they brought up an interesting point, John, and I'm not going to go on about the DPC right now because we've done that enough.
Yeah.
But No Tail raised an interesting point, and you and I talk about this a lot in the back, at least occasionally. I offer you this question, Jonathan. Is IceFrog still working on the game or not?
And that's something I've really thought about. That's something I've had conversations with my friends. I feel like the answer is he is. I'm pretty sure he still is, but based on how the game's going, I would say no. I don't think we've had the big shakeups that IceFrog likes to experiment with in a long time. We've been expecting an economy change for the past 2 years. It hasn't come out. We haven't had major map changes in around a year, I want to say, maybe a year and a half. And those are like key things that IceFrog loves to mess around with. You know, he loves to make the game broken. We haven't had like big game-breaking balance changes, like insane changes in a long time, and that slowdown leads me to worry that the spirit of how the game updates are kind of gone, and that could mean IceFrog might not be there. He is still there. I don't think he'd leave, and if he'd leave, he'd at least, you know, if unless he's on NDA, he would at least tell the community, because that's one of the few times he posts stuff, you know. So I feel like he's still there, and I think he's in this very tricky spot of not knowing how to evolve the game. When you work on something for like 10, 20 years at this point, plus actually 25 years almost for IceFrog 26, when you work on something that long, eventually you hit a roadblock, and I think that reflects in the game's updates, because again, we haven't had major changes. You look at the new heroes, vector targeted abilities, all-in-one toolkits. Primal Beast is probably one of the most egregious examples of that. Durability, damage, nuke, stun, mobility, and it's the same pattern for Marcy. It's the same pattern almost all the way back to, I think Grimstroke was the one that didn't have that. After that, like, you had some mobility. Same thing with Dawnbreaker, arguably. So I don't know. I feel like they just haven't been able to figure out what they want. But my answer in the end is like objective reality. He's still there. My heart says it doesn't feel like he's all there, you know?
Right. I'm with you on that, right? I feel like he's probably taking it almost, the way the game's being updated, I'd say for the past maybe 2 years, honestly, is it feels like he's taken a it feels like he probably still supervises the team that works on Dota. Like he probably looks at balance changes and things like that, but it certainly doesn't feel like IceFrog's balancing the game anymore, does it? Like, he might look over the changes, right? He might work on it a little bit, but it certainly doesn't feel like these changes are very IceFrog-ish. Like, the meta has felt so stale for, I'd literally say, since 2 years ago. Like, since OG won their second TI, I feel like the meta's just been the same. That's what it feels like to me. And we know IceFrog. I mean, I've been here since Dota All-Stars. So have you, John. We've been here for like 15 plus years now. We've been there through a lot of the IceFrog style changes, which has been most of Dota's lifetime. And this just doesn't feel like it's a Dota, like these changes. Like the recent patch, for example, it just felt like the changes that were made had no impact. So the big thing was what? The jungle got changed. The neutrals are harder to kill now, though I disagree completely, but that was the idea. They're meant to be more challenging to take down, and there's meant to be more threat, and you're meant to be able to do more with them, like heroes like Chen and Enchantress and Helm of the Dominator and whatever. But it doesn't feel like it changes the game at all. Like, you have Dark Troll Summoner, that's kind of busted. That rally ability is kind of busted. But apart from that, it's kind of like, well, what changed with the heroes? Well, what changed with the game? It's the same thing over and over again. Tier 1 towers, mid safe lane, Tier 1 towers have to go down. You take over the jungle. Eventually Tier 2s go down. You go into the triangle. You try to take over the enemy triangle. They do the same with your triangle. You take some outposts. You take Roshan. You try to go high ground. Like that's the meta every single time. And it just doesn't feel like IceFrog's really the one making the big changes anymore. And I don't want to offend any Valve staff here, right? Because I think Valve has some great employees that do a great job. I'm not saying that. But when IceFrog's changed the game. It just doesn't feel that it's been like that for quite a while now. Like, when's the last time Triangle wasn't such a huge objective in the game? When's the last time Triangle wasn't the safest place on the map? Why can't we, like... If it was IceFrog, I feel like Triangle would have been gone a year ago. I feel like Triangle would have either been low ground, so it's not as safe as it used to be, or it would have just been deleted altogether and they would have switched up the map a little bit. The hero changes, like, I don't know, do heroes even get changed anymore? It feels like it's the same heroes we watch every time. They all do the same thing. Like you said, every new hero comes out and it's got the same kind of skill set. Got a nuke, they're probably very durable. They've got a lot of mobility these days. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a new hero that doesn't have crazy mobility. Like, I don't know. It feels really weird. The game feels like it's in a weird state. And I think it's quite reflective in the games and what everyone's saying. Like, from our perspective as casters, we cast a lot of games. The games feel stale. No matter how hyped they get, we know what the script is, right? The script is always the same, right? And it's... You hear... 2-time TI wins, right? And you can't go against NoTell's word, right? He's a 2-time back-to-back, right? He's the 2-time John. You can't, no matter what, you can't go against his word on this, right? He's saying that a lot of older pros that have been in the scene for a long time, big fan favorites, whatever, like Puppy, probably Kuroki, whatever else. He's implying that based off the fact that the meta hasn't changed and the game feels stale, they might quit soon, right? And I guess that goes along with the DPC format as well, which they're also unhappy with. But I don't know, like, if you... Again, I don't want to insult the staff working on the game at all, but it's just so obvious the changes aren't big enough, aren't groundbreaking enough for me to believe it's IceFrog changing the game anymore. And that's kind of concerning for me, right? Because I'm a big Valve fanboy, I love Dota. No matter what, Dota's always at the top of the list for me. But... it just hasn't felt like it's changed. I don't know. It hasn't felt like it's changed. And I agree with everything NoTell said on his podcast, John. I think the game is stale. I think pro players are getting bored. I don't think there's any room for creativity anymore. I think it's all about min-maxing the game. And, he even mentioned you can't just run anything anymore, which it does feel like. You can't run anything. You have to pick OP heroes. Like Death Prophet or whatever else. The heroes that we see every game, Tiny, Medusa, whatever else, right? We always see the same garbage every time. I don't know. What are your thoughts, John? Like, it feels bad for the game for me. That's what it feels like.
I'm gonna sound like a real negative Nancy here, but I've felt that way for at least 2 years. Like, I haven't had fun in my pubs. It's felt like the same game. I'm someone who's fond of trying different things. I love playing weird offlaners. I love the quirky mids. You just can't do that, even in your low tier pubs, because everyone else is tryharding. They wanna take these things. Creativity doesn't work. In the pro games, it shows like every now and again we'll see something unique, like say Raging Potato offlane Ember, offlane Gyrocopter. But in the end, that's still an Ember Spirit. That's still a Gyrocopter. With a certain combination on hand. Those are still heroes in the meta anyway. They're just in a very different position. So I don't know. Like we've been asking for these drastic changes. We've been asking for these insane hero tweaks as we used to see in the patches. We all thought 7.31 would be it. It wasn't quite. I don't know what plays into that. I have a sinking feeling that the DPC format plays a big part in that, because there's not enough time for a big game-changing patch to absolutely break the game in the interval between DPC and major start, major and DPC start. Like there's not enough time. There's 2 weeks leeway between those grace periods. It's like you can't break the game and expect pros to adjust within 2 weeks. I think it used to be we'd get a game-breaking patch like that and have like a month or two before anything big happened in the pro scene. And I think the schedule isn't conducive for that kind of patch, and that's why IceFrog is like maybe taking it slow, adjusting much less in smaller increments, keeping the game stable. And it kind of boils back to the DPC. If that is the case, I feel like the DPC schedule is a big part of why we aren't getting those drastic changes that we'd like to see. I'd like to be able to see new stuff. I'd like to see broken stuff come in. I'd like to see maybe, what if CM came back and made it because she's suddenly ridiculous outside of buying 3 mangoes and using Frostbite, right? Like, what if she had some other way to play it? What if Bloodseeker was viable as a Radiance Rusher again because of his rework to Blood Rage? I've tried it a couple of times. It still sucks. Word of warning. Bloodseeker rushing Radiance with a 414 build, kind of terrible. I've tried it, but why isn't it viable? Like, why is it still that despite the changes to Bloodseeker's hero, with Blood Rage being the main component that was buffed up and Blood Right slightly, and not his right click, like, why isn't the Spell Amp side of it viable? Like, why do you give him this Ags that has Blood Mist, which is 5% damage, magic being done to enemy heroes while taking your own damage as well, which interacts with Blood Rage? Why isn't viable to build any of that? Like, it's just the pacing of the game isn't conducive for it, because hey, you have to play around those tier 1 towers, you have to play around the Roche timing, and rushing a 4.2k gold item and the Radiance, or both of them at once, it's not viable. And the game's just really the same playstyle, and it reflects in our pubs, it reflects in our pro games. And I wish that, again, it'll take a readjustment of the DPC. I think I was just really surprised, because okay, so when we ended the last TI, we started December, I thought with an early start we'd still get only 2 tours and have a longer break time between to accommodate other tournaments, to accommodate these bigger patches. It didn't happen. Instead we're still shifting in 3 seasons, 3 tours into TI to put in those 3 majors instead of readjusting TI back to August. Instead of anything like that, we're keeping TI at the same spot. So I don't know, like the decisions for this DPC in terms of timing, I understand why. I think they've always wanted to have the 3 major cycle, right? It's just that the last DPC started late, but it's just too much. It's too much time for 2 little games, with not enough time to breed, with not enough time for big experimental patches that IceFrog would love, or, the IceFrog style would love. And I think because of that, I don't actually expect anything game-breaking until after TI again. If any at all, unless DPC changes. Like this, for me, all of this hinges on the fact that DPC only has 2 weeks before and after a major to actually make changes. And that's not enough for these big sweeping changes we used to get.
Allow me to play devil's advocate for a second here, John. Right, I'll defend Valve here with this point, right? Does the meta feel stale because we haven't had much international Dota due to the pandemic? Like, do you think maybe that has something to do with it? Like, I know you just pointed out the DPC doesn't allow enough time for the patches to really be groundbreaking and huge and whatever. What if what if the meta just isn't evolving like it used to because we're not playing international lands as much as we used to? Because if you think back, every major we have is always a pleasure to watch, right? The Dota's always great. A lot of different things happen. Most heroes do end up getting picked up. So what if it's literally a matter of it's just there's not enough international Dota, right? Because you and I, we're SCA casters right now, right? We cast the SCA DPC, and if it's not the SCA DPC, generally speaking, we'll cast some other SCA tournament, whether it be Pro Series or whatever. So what if it's just a matter of you and I just getting too used to watching SCA Dota? And because they're not playing against, say, the Chinese or the Europeans or the Americans, is that why maybe the meta hasn't changed as much, or it feels like maybe it hasn't shifted?
No, I'd argue no.
No.
You look at the last majors, Singapore major, Kiev major, and major. You look at those, the majors were kind of the same coming in from the DPC regions. The same picks were showing up. You look at the Dubai LAN recently. What were we seeing coming out? Kunkka. We were seeing some Miranda because of Tim's. We were seeing Ember Spirits, TAs. Some Deuces, Tiny. Tundra had that weird thing with Gyrocopter. Again, there's a couple of pocket picks that can slide through like that are different for either team or region specific. But the meta hasn't really shifted. It's still the same timing. It's still the same pacing. It's still the same macro game. Macro-wise, it's still the same. Micro-wise, maybe slight differences. And I don't think that the lack of international lands are holding that back. Maybe to a certain extent, but it feels like with how much time we've had to stew in each region, every region's kind of figure out the optimal way. And again, it reflects in picks. DP is a highly contested hero across almost every region with a 1% different swing in, I think, SA and Southeast Asia. It's very slight, but DP is still a top tier pick. And it's because we've kind of figured out what's good. The mate is just holding. And yeah, again, there are some heroes that don't show up in some regions, but the playstyles are almost kind of the same. It's homogenized a bit. It's all down to execution. And that's why I think that a lot of people in this DPC, when I interviewed them, talk about how even the DPC feels like it feels even because everyone's figured out what to do. More so than anything else. So it feels like anyone can take a game off as long as you execute to that game plan. Individual skills still plays a part, but as a team game in pro scene, it's all about executing as a team. And that's why it feels like whenever I talk to everyone, they're like, yeah, our scrims are going 50-50. Even Execration tells me that. They tell me our scrims are actually going 50-50. We're on the edge of winning. What's their scoreline right now? Execration hasn't won.
Yeah.
But it feels close because they know what timings to hit. And that's why everyone's like, they figure out the game. It's just 2 years is too long to hold into the same play style. It's like, again, there's been small shifts here and there, but 2 years is way too long for the same sort of overarching plan. Like, remember when certain patches were defined by what they were, and then we moved on, and that patch was defined by something else? It feels like 7.30 to 7.31. What are we on? 3.1 or 3.2, right? 3.1. Maybe 7.29 to 3.1 has felt like the same grand arcing era, whereas maybe in like 6. I don't know. Remember the Sniper Troll patch? That was defined literally just in that patch. Afterwards, it was gone. Like that kind of era of a patch being defined by its meta, then you move on. Different meta for a different patch. You're not getting that clear divide anymore with the last few patches. And I think that's the major issue. It just hasn't shifted enough.
And I want to say as well, I don't expect big changes like neutral items when they came in or talents when they came in, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I really don't want more things to be introduced into the game. Like, new item, like if we add 10 new items, that doesn't excite me. If we added another hero, that excites me a little bit, but it's whatever. I want one of those big Ice Frog ridiculous changes where literally every hero gets tweaked in some way, some of them more than others. And like you said, have defining patches where you have the ho ho ha ha patch. I know that patch was terrible and nobody wants to revisit that. But it's kind of besides the point. The point is those kind of patches are memorable. Whereas this kind of patch right now, you're not going to remember this crap. You're only going to remember it because you're bored shitless when you're playing it, right? It just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. It's not exciting. The new items are cool and all, but it's whatever. And then you got heroes that just never get played. Like, what happened to Dawnbreaker? It came in. It seemed kind of busted at the start. I was just winning every game with it. I was having a great time. Then they started nerfing it before it went to captain's mode. I found the nerfs kind of weird, quite frankly, because I didn't think the hero was that busted. You know, it wasn't like a Grimstroke or a Snapfire or a Monkey King or something that came in and really was just way too strong. It just felt like a whatever hero. And then it just got nerfed. And now it just never gets picked up. And it's like, well, when's Marcy coming into captain's mode? Is she really that busted that we can't just throw her in right now? I feel like that at some point the team's gotten scared. The team's gotten too scared of upsetting pro players or some crap with introducing these heroes quickly or just kind of throwing balance out the window. But it's not, at the end of the day, as much as you want the pro scene to be happy, it's not really about them, right? Yeah, it's about the player base, and the player base likes busted, stupid shit, right? That's what we thrive on. We like broken stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. I agree with you. I think there needs to be more patch defining changes that happen. I think we need to have patches where you have a name for the damn patch because it's that damn, whatever. The Sniper Troll patch, everyone remembers that. The Naga Siren vs Arc Warden patches, the Naga Disruptor combos, we all remember that. What about the Morph Earthshaker, John? Yep. That was fun. Remember how long that went on? That was a great time. Yes, it was busted as hell. Remember Morph Tiny with the tree volley, John?
Oh yeah,
that was great. That was great.
Oh yeah,
how great was that?
Oh,
I know people like, oh Mike, it was so stupid, it was so broken, it makes no sense. Who cares? It was fun. It was fun to watch, it was fun to cast, and I'm sure it was fun to play.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't. We need more patches that are defined by just broken combos. Like, what is it right now? Like, what's the patch defining heroes right now? I don't know.
DP,
Tiny,
Tiny, Medusa,
Tiny.
Ember,
it's kind of boring, right?
Storm, Io, yeah.
It's boring.
Yep.
And people keep saying, "Oh, the patch is so aggressive." It's like, yeah, it's aggressive, but it's not. In some weird way, it's aggressive, but not entertaining. If that makes sense,
because it's predictable.
Because again, I think it's predictable. We know the script. We know exactly what's going to happen, and that's I always say this, but if the casters know what's happening, we have a problem. If John and I can tell you exactly what's going to happen throughout a game, the game has a problem because we're not fucking geniuses. We're not that good of players to be able to predict everything. Neither are the pros. So I don't know. I agree with what Notel said on his podcast. I think he's very accurate. I think people are, in the pro scene at least, getting kind of bored. I think innovative captains like Puppy, for example, or Kuroki or whatever, I think they feel maybe limited right now to what they can do. I feel like they're just like, oh, we got to choose the broken heroes. Better ban that DP before the other team picks it. Oh, who's taking Tiny? But did we ban Medusa? We got to ban Medusa if we're taking Tiny, John. You don't want that IF Skadi carrier against you. It's like, well, can we win if they do take Medusa? Well, sure we can. We just got to drag it out long enough. Well, what happens if we fall behind, John? Well, it's okay because we got fucking Tiny and he can 3-hit a tower. So just send him into the side lane, let him push it out, and delete a tier 3 tower in 2 seconds. It's just so... It's broken, but not in the fun way. It's just... I don't know. Just change the map, I think. Change the map is the first step. Change the fucking map. Get rid of the triangle. The triangle it's too safe, right? It's way too safe. It's too big of an objective to take over. And I think that's a great place to start. Remove the fucking... Make it low ground, right? Make it high value, but high risk. Make it really high risk. Do something like that.
Yeah, we do need a drastic change. I don't know what it'll be. We've theorized a lot, Mike. Don't want to go over points again, but something needs to change. And unfortunately, realistically, again, it's not going to happen until after TI. So, yeah, I think we're going to be stuck with this a little bit longer. Heck, I'm not even sure if I'm expecting a patch, say, after DPC, before Majors, after Majors. I don't even know if we're going to get something again. I feel like we won't. And that's concerning to me. Like, my thought process is that, like, that aspect of pros being bored, I mean, it's playing with a patch, but I think the podcast also pointed out, Notel also talked about that the DPC format's also boring a lot of pro players. It's choking them in.
Yeah.
It's making it hard for you to make more money by playing more tournaments, because, that's how you tend to sustain yourself. You play on a lot of these third-party tournaments. And in DPC Div 1, you don't tend to get that opportunity. Div 2, you do. You know, Div 2 teams can have a little bit more leeway. They tend to just go play outside tournaments, even though technically it's, I believe, not supposed to be allowed, but they get that opportunity. But it's demotivating, you know, it just feels like it's stagnant. I think that's why. It's very stagnant. Like, the game's stagnant. It feels like your career progression is stagnant for the pro players, right? Because they're just stuck playing DPC. There's no upward movement beyond TI. Sure, you might want to go to the major. Once you do, you get your points. You hope for TI. You know, it's still that same cycle where it's just super stagnant, top heavy. And in that aspect, I don't know how to fix it. Like, we still need that rework the time frame of DPC by the next year, the next tour cycle. But who knows? I don't know. Like, we expected that this tour as well. Didn't quite come out. So I'm not holding out my hope too high.
And one thing I really miss as well, by the way, John, while we're talking about the DPC format, is open qualifiers. Like, I feel like if DPC is fine.
Yep.
We all agree it just needs to be shortened with more games. That's what we all agree on.
Yes.
Just shorten it, more games. We've gone over this many, many times. But I miss open qualifiers, and I realize we have it for Division 2. Like, you can go into open qualifiers and qualify to Div 2. I get it. It's fun, whatever. But I feel like open qualifiers should still just be a thing when it comes to, like, majors and shit. You know? Like, I know it doesn't really make the most sense to have an open qualifier slot for each region, even though you had upper division and lower division happening, and lower division theoretically has no chance of making. But why the fuck not? Why not just add open qualifier slots as well? Just so if you're in lower division, you know you actually still have a chance. Right? It's going to be a hard road. You're going to have to go through a long, you know, best of whatever, round of whatever. You know, a lot of games is what I'm trying to say. And if you're a lower division team, you're going to have to go up against upper division teams. But we've seen upsets before, is my point. And I feel like we could still have open qualifiers for majors because they're exciting. They're fun to watch. It's great for new talent as well. New casters have nothing to cast right now, you know, to get their names out there. Have some open qualifiers. Give the... Like, players that aren't part of the DPC have literally nothing to play for. Literally nothing.
Yes.
Like, they got to wait for the open qualifier. That's it.
I don't know how you'd integrate open qualifiers into the majors, because the DPC is basically the major qualifier anyway. So I think open qualifiers for TI have to happen. I think that's the one thing I'd like to see. But for majors, the structure just doesn't allow it, and as much as we'd like to see it, it kind of makes the Division 2 pointless, having that open qualifiers. You're right. You struggle to stay in Div 2. 2 teams get eliminated, but open qualifiers are there, so that elimination doesn't really count for much. It's I don't know. Like, the structure just doesn't allow for it, because our qualifiers is the DPC. So I think that's where it goes back to maybe the format. Our format is just not conducive for that either, because of the league system incentivizing incentivizing consistency. So that kind of removes that whole point. It removes the stakes, especially for someone looking to stay in Div 2, keep their slot there. It takes it out. What I do not enjoy, though, is the fact that I think, like, this is qualifiers for a major, but it's a qualifiers for the major only for Div 1. I think, again, we've got to do something that involves Div 2, in as much as that maybe it will be a complete wash and they all get stomped in the first round. Like, DPC has to be shortened, as mentioned. You could keep the same amount of games. This is a compromise, and I've proposed this before. Shorten DPC, keep the same amount of games, one round robin, but have a playoff structure going into the major. And that keeps the hype, like the regional finals kind of thing, but widen it to almost every team and have them duke it out, right? For that slot. Like, that gives Div 2 a bit of a chance to go into the major. It's a tough one, because, you know, they're still in Div 2. But it gives them an opportunity. It gives a storyline chance for stuff to happen. And that could be the way to make it more interesting. Because right now, we only have a group stage for no playoffs, right? It's group stage for what? For qualifying. With no playoffs, it's like, I don't know. Like, if you restructure it that way, it could be fun. It gives Div 2 something to play for, beyond them just being stuck in this rut and just honestly feeling pretty depressed. Let's face it, if you're stuck in Div 2, you're not happy. So at least having that playoff structure might give you more, and could give us good storylines. I don't know. Again, Mike, it's going to be after TI. So we can daydream all we want. It's going to take a year for any of this to come out, if at all.
Well, let's daydream a little bit longer, John. Can we bring miners back? Is bringing miners back a thing? Do you think that's a good idea? Like, what if we had 3 majors, 3 minors, and we shorten the DPC? So instead of having the DPC run for however many fucking weeks, the eternity that it is, we half it, and we chuck a minor in, and maybe some kind of format where Div 2 teams can qualify to the minor, and let's say they miraculously win, then they can get to the major. I don't know, something like that is what I'm thinking. Like, because then you double the tournaments, like you double the DPC tournaments, which is not a bad thing. Third parties still get involved and host those minors, right? But it adds more LAN. It allows, in some way, make a format where Div 2 teams can qualify. And if they can go on a miraculous run somehow, maybe they can get to the major. I don't know. Why not that? Doesn't that solve some issues?
It would. The issue is no one wants to run minors. I think this was brought out before by certain organizers. Minors are the most unprofitable of all the tournaments because you are forced to run at LAN, you're forced to bring in talents, you're forced to bring in teams. Your prize pool is small, viewership isn't as high because at that time minors were basically Div 2 teams, right? At that point where the major teams would go to major, minor teams are those who didn't qualify for the major. So viewership wouldn't be as high. You don't have your team secrets, you don't have your OG, although I guess at this point it's a realistic possibility you'd have a couple of those teams there, but that's beyond the point. Minors are very hard for third parties to run, and that was established. Like, what are the last few minors we've had were GSC minors, which still haven't paid out as well. So not only are they unprofitable, the people who are willing to run it have been pretty scummy, and I think Valve is going to be avoiding that. So it makes it a bit weird as well in terms of DPC point distribution. And let's say majors, minors, Div 1 qualifies for majors, Div 2 qualifies for minors. How does the DPC point spread work for the minors? It can't be as high as the majors, and the prize pool's not going to be as high. But how does, it kind of shakes up the DPC rankings by points, but not in a good way, because I think this is where you start to see that segregation of Div 1, Div 2, and the points war kind of be weird. It will reward a highly consistent Div 2 team for playing theoretically weaker opponents if they do, say, place first or place 3 and then win minors and then stuff like that. It makes the DPC point system weird. It skews it a bit weird. They'd have to rebalance all of that as well. I think that's much more effort than I'd expect to come out for the DPC rework, so I think that's the least likely thing we'll see, minors back. But outside of that, I think if you don't run it as minors, just run third-party tournaments, invite anyone who you like, run qualifiers the way you want. That's still feasible to me. Minors as a concept, no. It's been proven to not be feasible just because of the operation cost, dragging all these teams in for $100,000 prize pool, maybe less if my memory is failing me. The backing from Valve then, I believe, was half the prize pool or all the prize pool. None of the production costs. I think that was down to the TO. As is usual. I think that's actually industry standard in Dota 2. Prize pool is where Valve helps. Everything else is down to you. So it takes a really good bookkeeper to balance out the books. And a minor, I think in every single case, has been a loss. Again, majors for the most part, it's a good major when you break even. That's a great major. Minors, right. I don't think they broke even a lot of the time in most cases.
Well, hopefully, with the lands coming back and the crowd coming back in, hopefully they become more profitable again. That's the hope, obviously. You don't want TOs hosting these tournaments but running at a loss every single time. That would be, very, very bad, to say the least. Naturally, eventually, people are just going to stop, hosting these things if they don't, end up providing profit. So you hope we find a way to make that happen. I guess I'll go into another point here, John. A bit more off topic here, but it kind of relates. I believe it was Kuroki who said online Dota isn't real Dota, right? Like LAN Dota is where like the real competitive Dota happens. And recently we have been seeing a fall from grace from the bigger teams like Secret, Nigma, whatever else, right? They haven't been looking too good. In fact, the meme going around right now is they're getting relegated to Div 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that sentiment from Kuroki? Like, do you feel like there's a big difference? Because for me, I'll bring my point across first. For me, I kind of half agree. I feel like you've got to be able to play online Dota at the same time, I can appreciate where Kuro's coming from, where, LAN is very different. And a lot of these newer teams with less experience are going to suffer on LAN because they're not used to a crowd being there and the big lights and the stage and whatever else. The nerves kick in. So naturally, these older teams, they do have some inherent advantage because they have much more experience in these environments. But at the same time, I don't know if I can take that as an outright excuse for not performing as you should be as a huge organization because, just because it's online doesn't mean you play like dog shit. Like you're sitting in your own home or a gaming house or whatever, in the comfort of your own home playing. Just because the enemy per se doesn't have a disadvantage because they don't have as much LAN experience as you doesn't mean that suddenly online Dota is just not a thing. What do you reckon, John? Do you think Kuro had a point there, or whoever said it? I'm pretty sure it's Kuroki, but whoever said it, do you think they have a point?
I mean, they have a point in that a lot of the excitement, I mean, everyone loves playing LAN Dota. In the Philippines, the culture was playing LAN Dota. You play in the net cafes, you don't really play online. Garena came out a little bit later in the life of Dota, but most people were still playing in the cafes with each other, with people across the city, yelling at each other. That's the aspect I think they miss. I do not think it's right to say that online Dota is not Dota, especially with how teams are playing now, especially in C. We're all in the team house. So it feels like a LAN environment. Your opponents just aren't there. LANs right now are crowdless anyway for Dota 2. We haven't had a crowd LAN. We might have a crowd for ESL. They say they will have a crowd. We'll see. Considering that COVID has been developing. China's been delayed for really long, so that's going to affect the majors as well. We still haven't had EEU DPC, so who knows what's going to happen when major at this point. It seems to go through. But even Lando is a bit different right now, right? Like, you saw Dubai, Nigma was there. They didn't do too well either. And maybe that aspect of having the crowd cheer for you is a big part. And that does make it exciting for players. But at the end of the day, ideally, you'd be in soundproof boots with, noise dampening headphones on top of whatever you're listening to with your earbuds. And that tends to be the case. And
yeah,
you don't hear it as much once you're in the booth. You're still isolated. You're still playing Dota. You're still together with your team. A team house environment simulates that to an extent, minus the crowd noises. But again, LANs anyway don't have crowd noises. TI didn't have a crowd. I don't think it's fair to say that online Dota isn't real Dota. LAN Dota is definitely peak Dota. I won't disagree with that. But to say that online Dota isn't real Dota, it sounds like excuses. Especially since, again, Nigma I don't mean to, open up wounds here.
Hey, John.
But, Nigma was in Dubai. They bombed out pretty badly. That was a LAN. You could argue, but there's no crowd. It's still a LAN. Boom did great, Tundra did great. So there's no real excuse. And I think that's maybe just deflection. I don't blame them, though, if they are, again, going back to that point of being bored with Dota, I don't blame him. Kuroki's been playing for years. As you mentioned, he's a guy who loves to experiment with his picks, run weird stuff in pause 5, pause 4. The patch doesn't sustain that. And yeah, I mean, there is an aspect of missing the old times with LANs, but to say that online Dota isn't real Dota, it's a bit much for me, Mike. That's a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think it is more excuse making than anything. Like, obviously, it's kind of upsetting to, again, fall from grace. You had such a great team, I guess, and they just teams like Nigma haven't looked the same for a long time. I feel like almost ever since they kicked Matu, right? Like, it just hasn't looked the same. You had like we come in, there's a switch with Miracle to play pos 1, whatever else, and it was downhill from there, is what it felt like. We'll leave it at that, I suppose, with that topic. It is whatever. It's a comment made by a pro player. I imagine they are kind of upset with their performances right now, and teams like Nigma, big sponsors to try and keep happy as well. I mean, I believe they have Etihad Airways and things like that, so naturally, maybe a bit of excuse making just to keep the sponsors happy, but they might not know what's going on. I guess we'll just leave it at that. John, another topic which people aren't going to be very happy about. This is way off the mark with Dota. It had nothing to do with Dota. John, the beard's gotten pretty long. Beard's gotten pretty long. The wife's not happy. The wife is not happy whatsoever. She's telling me every day I've got to get rid of her. Right? She's not coming near me anymore. She's She's hesitant to do, to do anything to embrace. She's not happy with the beard whatsoever. I think I've got to get rid of it at this point, Jonathan. I'm a man. I got to keep the wife happy. Happy wife, happy life, as they say.
Yep.
Question is, John, when do I get rid of it? Because I don't want to get rid of it mid-DPC, because I know I'm going to cop that classic, oh my god, where's the beard gone, this and that. Yeah, people get upset. I hear about it in chat every single time we cast. I'm thinking I wait till DPC is over, prior to the major, that's when I do it. What do you think? Do you think I just bite the bullet and get rid of it right now, or is it smart to wait till we're done casting DPC?
Are you going to be removing it fully, or are you talking about trimming it down to something manageable? What are we looking at here before anything else?
I was thinking about going full clean shave. I'm not going to lie. I was thinking about going full baby face, clean shave, only because I haven't had any kind of facial routine in a while, and I've got to start putting some moisturizer on. You don't know, John. You don't have a beard. You don't understand what it's like, right? But your skin gets dry. Yeah. It starts to crack underneath. You can't wash your face properly because you got a bunch of hair in front of you. Oh, I don't know. I was gonna just trim it and do the whole styling thing, but then I kind of feel like just getting rid of it all together and just cleaning the face up a bit. Is that so wrong of me?
No, it's not wrong of you. I just remember how you looked back then, Mike. It's been what? The last time I saw you do that was like in 2018, I want to say. It's been a long time indeed. So I think it would, okay, if you're going to go full shave, it'll, I'd say after DPC. Because the viewership will definitely be like, who the hell is this guy? They'll be like, where's Mike? Who is this guy? They'll be like, yeah. It would shock people. Some people would just not be able to believe it's you, So I think maybe after the DPC would be good. Unless the wifey can't wait, then you have to listen to the wifey. Just bear with it, take it off, and if you were to take it off, so there are two options. It's either you do it after DPC, or if you will have to do it within DPC time, do it ASAP. Like, I think it's either or. Nothing in between. Like, It's either you go for the last 2 weeks of DPC clean shaved, or you do it after. And if the wifey wants it gone fast, I'd say actually do it ASAP. If you are going to have to anyway. If the wifey really wants it gone ASAP, just get it done, and see how chat reacts. It's gonna be fun watching chat. I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy that one.
Fun for you, not fun for me having to tag every single person who messages me saying, why did you shave the beard off? Why did you do this? It's not very fun, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, once the time does come. But I suppose we'll see. I want to talk about the SEA Dota DPC or SEA DPC a little bit here, John. Yeah. Because things are getting rather spicy, right? Mm-hmm. Currently, the favorites of SEA DPC, at least the start of 202, was Boom Esports, right? They just came off the Galaxy Gamers win, looking brilliant, just looking very, very strong in the region. Sitting in 5th place at the moment, tied with NGXC, which is something that I don't think anyone would have been expecting. Mind you, the only loss in terms of a series that they've had so far is that forfeit that they had to take towards NGXC. Because their electricity cut out and they, didn't notify BTS in time and whatever else. Things happened. So right now they're 2-1. They've still got 4 series left to go of the DPC before 202 ends and we go into a major. Now I'm looking at the matchups right now, and this is where it gets kind of spicy, right? Because I still think Boom's going to be able to qualify, but it's looking a little bit dangerous right now. So Boom's got Execration, which I think should be a whitewash. Let's not pretend. Boom should just completely destroy them. That should be a 2-0. But then you got Boom vs T1, John. Right, Boom vs T1. That's a hype matchup. I believe you and I are going to be on it, by the way, in case you didn't know. But Boom and T1 are going to be against each other. T1's been looking real clean recently, John. Currently coming first in the DPC. And this is a matchup you and I have been waiting for since 202 started. I don't know what to say about that one. That could go anyway. I'm thinking 2-1, no matter which team wins, but it really could go any way. So that is, let's say hypothetically T1 gets a 2-1 victory, right? That's another loss in the books for Boom Esports. That's very detrimental to making their way to the major. Then they've got Fnatic, Jonathan. Fnatic right now is undefeated in the DPC, or rather just in series, not in terms of single games, but in terms of series, they are 3-0 at the moment. So while people might say Boom Esports should destroy them, I don't think it's going to be that simple because Fnatic's also been looking pretty decent. And then, let me finish you off here, Jonathan. Boom Esports versus SMG. And I know people are going to say the same thing. Oh, but it's just SMG. They haven't been looking amazing. SMG tends to surprise you, though. Sometimes they wake up in the morning and they're just feeling brilliant. I don't know. Is Boom Esports going to make it, John? Are they going to a major? Or is it going to be T1, Fnatic, and I guess maybe Polaris, maybe SMG?
Look, first off, I see Lane in chat. Lane, I know you're traumatized. Chill out. Mike is just being a doomsayer here. I will refute all your points, Mike. Did you watch the game yesterday of T1 versus Neon? That did not look clean to me, Mike. Game 1 of T1 versus Neon, didn't look clean. It looked like an absolute mess. The fact that Neon was almost about to win, but, their inexperience kicks in. But it actually looked like Neon would take a game off. Your point about Fnatic undefeated, who did they face? The 3 teams potentially facing relegation. Execration, NGXC, and Neon themselves. And even those games, Neon managed to take a game off Fnatic. The only thing that might be worrying is SMG. In fact, I was a bit more worried about a Polaris matchup for Boom. I feel like Polaris was probably their toughest opponent this season. And they managed to ride through it. So 2-1. So I feel like that hurdle's gone. T1 can surprise us. Considering their own performance, I would still rate Boom above. I feel like Boom is still set. But this goes back to my comment when that forfeit came out. It changes the dynamic. It makes it scarier for Boom. It makes it a lot scarier for Boom because they just gave a loss that they shouldn't have to a team that should not have won, right? And that's the concern because DPC is so weird with format. Every series counts in a very, very high way. So, yeah, it's like, I still see Boom taking this. I think you're overrating Fnatic. In as much as I hate to say it, I think Fnatic's a bit overrated. Their standing is not reflective of how they've been performing so far. I think T1 is still a lot more inconsistent than I'd like to see. And considering, just the fact that Game 1 versus T1 versus Neon went that way, has me a little bit concerned for their consistency. Like, it should not be that way with the inexperienced Neon has.
I didn't have the chance to watch. I'll be honest, I wanted to watch OB Neon versus T1. I was busy. I was at a birthday party. I didn't, I couldn't just sit on my phone watching it. It would have been too rude. But I get you, John, but I don't think you can underestimate T1 like that. Like, look, here's the thing. Since Tour 2 started, what have you and I been saying? The big matchup's going to be Boom versus T1. We know T1's listening to some of the bullshit we've been talking about, especially when it comes to chat and the general SCA community. Everyone refers to Boom right now as the top team in SCA based off Gamers Galaxy. They came first. They destroyed every other team. It wasn't even close. I know people are going to say 3-2. Not even close. I mean, game 1, LC bug. I don't want to hear it. Right? T1's going to be listening to all those words, John. Now, if your team, and the SCA players, it's not about winning. It's about destroying the enemy. That's what it's all about. Yep. You've got to... I guarantee you, the motivation for T1 going against Boom this week will not be we've got to win to get to the major, but we've got to beat them so they don't get to the major. So then we're the SCA team that everyone's going to support, right? So I think T1, as messy as you think they looked against OB Neon, and again, I haven't watched that game, so I shouldn't really comment too much about that. But I don't think you can underestimate T1 because I think they've got a lot to play for. Because again, when you're at a major job, if you're the team that your region views as the only hope or the big hope, you're naturally going to get a bit of wind behind you. You're going to have that adrenaline rush and you're probably going to play better because you've got everyone behind you. But for T1, when you've got Boom right next to them, who's everyone's cheering for at that point? Are we cheering for T1 or are we cheering for Boom? I realize you can say, John, we can cheer for both at the same time. You know that's not the case, though. That's not the case. We can cheer for both, but we can't. It's not going to be 50-50. We're always going to have faith in one. I don't think it's that safe for Boom Esports right now. I think they've got to be very careful against T1. Hell, even Fnatic. I know you talk crap about Fnatic. They're overrated, this and that. I still think you've got to be careful.
True. I mean, you always have to be careful, but I think, again, this doom and gloom is a bit overstated. Unless... Okay, this is the one way Boom messes up, is they're just sitting on their asses not playing. But I know that's not the case. I see Japoy play. I see them in scrims every day. for at least 6 hours. I see the same thing with Talon, which I'm very proud of, no bias. But I see Boom taking that same regimen of scrimming like 6 hours. Like I'm guessing they're playing like at least 6 scrim games a day, 3 best of 2s in their scrims. They're really training hard, and I kind of believe in that. I still feel like, I don't know, like you can't underestimate these teams, and you shouldn't. I'm not saying they're bad teams. I'm saying Boom is better. You know, it's like this hierarchy in C is very, very, very misleading. Boom, you're saying he's tied up with NGXC. NGXC is 2-3, and Boom is 2-1. They've played 2 less series. They've only taken 1 forfeit loss. They've only really played 2 series. Think about that. Boom's only played 2 series. T1's played 5. Fnatic's played 3. Polaris has played 5. SMG's played 5. Boom has 3 more games to usurp everyone. You know, so yeah, 4. So they've got a lot. They've got a lot left, and I think we're gonna see that. I still think Boom's still set for 1. I am still very curious about who takes the 3rd slot, because I still see Boom T1 being the favorites. I would have earlier in the season I was saying Boom Polaris, but they've taken a couple of losses that should not have happened for that to, you know, for their chances to go up. So it's a bit nebulous right now for Polaris. Like they still have a shot, but so does SMG. So it's a bit closer for the 3rd slot. I still think we're going to see Boom, and considering I don't see T1 dropping to anyone else but Boom going forward, should be a good shot for them. I mean, there's a chance Fnatic takes them out as well.
It's scary, John. It's a rocky road.
It's scary, but I'm confident. I still feel like if you look at the games, you look how the teams play, Boom is still looking like the best team. And I think T1 has improved with Marchin. That actually has helped them a ton. There's still some kinks to work out. And I'm sure if March is lurking there again, he's like, oh, John, that's the same thing. I don't mean to trash talk T1 here. You know, I'm just saying, I'm looking at every single team and how they're playing and the opponents they faced, and Boom still looks like the top contender. The hierarchy is just not good because the DPC system and the games we have kind of skew it this way. So it is what it is.
John X Karaoke is what you sound like right now, John. Thank you for that. Thank you for your comments. It's, yeah, I mean, look, I'm with you. I'm still confident they're probably going to scrape through and make it. Then the question becomes, give me your top 3 teams then. Like, based off the standings right now, you assume Boom's going to make it, so do I. Right? So that's 1. That's 1 team. Who's the other 2? Who makes it?
Boom, T1. I still want to say Polaris. I think Fnatic facing off against literally the 3 weakest teams in DPC and still dropping a game to Execration. There's still a lot of work there. They dropped a game to Execration and to Neon, which is, you know, it says quite a fair bit. I think they're still a contender, but Fnatic has literally all the other runner-ups for the top 3. Like, this next 2-3 weeks of DPC is literally all the biggest matches to determine top 3. Like, that's all left there. These teams have not faced each other, so it's saved till the end. I feel like it's Boom T1, it's Polaris, but there is a very big but that there could be tiebreakers for that 3rd spot between Polaris, SMG, potentially Fnatic, and a long shot, potentially NGX. Like, there is a chance for very big tiebreakers there if NGX does win out. Because, let's see, NGX has their match against Execration Neon. On paper, that should be NGX.
Right.
Fnatic could potentially lose. Too. Yeah, they could win 2 more, go 4-3, and then there's room here for Fnatic to potentially drop all their games. So imagine Fnatic lose to Polaris, SMG, and T1, and then that drags Polaris up, that drags NGX way up. It could there are some very strange tiebreakers that could happen for the 3rd slot if the worst case scenario happens for Fnatic and the best case scenario happens for NGX, and Polaris kind of performs middling in their next few series, which is also kind of tough to see. I mean, that condition would be... Yeah.
Can I just say as well, and I've noticed this in the Twitch chat, and I feel like we should discuss this, right? Because you and I talk about this all the time, and I feel kind of bad. I've got to say it, though.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like anyone wants Fnatic to go to the major. Even if you SCA, look, don't be like that, John. We're going to talk about it, right? It does seem that way, right? the community in SEA, I don't think they have faith. Now, look, I like Fnatic. I like their coach. I like Pau. I like the team. I think they got great players. But let's be honest. Every time they qualify to some big tournament like a major, they end up in lower bracket playoffs, and they usually get kicked out round 1. It happens every time. Sometimes we get to round 2, and that's usually as far as we go. I read someone in the chat saying Fnatic are usually just happy to participate, but they're not actually there to try and win. Sometimes that's what it feels like. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes that's what it feels like. It's kind of sad. I felt bad because, you and I were cheerleaders on Twitter, right? We don't get invited to a major, so we go on Twitter and Facebook and all that crap, and we start being the cheerleaders for the SEA teams. Sometimes when it comes to a team like Fnatic, it doesn't feel like there's even a point because the results just aren't there, right? Like it felt like for years now, they take a slot and then they fail in round 1 of lower bracket. It happens every time. And I feel really bad saying that. I feel really bad because I love these players. Yeah. I love the team. But they need to show up, right? Like if we're going to qualify to a major, it's not good enough anymore. It's not good enough anymore to be kicked out of round 1, right? T1 comes out of nowhere last year. They start smashing teams. They look like a TI contender. Boom Esports definitely looks like a TI contender right now, right? And then you have arguably the third best team being Fnatic. What can you say about them though? It's like maybe like 2% chance they might go on a run. Maybe. I might be being generous there. I'm just talking about previous results. I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah.
These are previous results.
Yeah.
What the fuck do they need to do, John? I want to support this team, Jonathan. I feel bad saying this. I want to support this team. But it happens every time. What do we do? What's the changes, John? What needs to happen?
I think this needed to happen way earlier, but Fnatic needed to drag all their players in a lot earlier. Because you know what I'm noticing now? The strong teams might not be the mechanically best, although that's arguable. But you look at Boom. What rank is Yopaj? He's within like 100. I think last I saw, he went down to 120 for some reason on my friend list, or 70 peak. So he's technically not the highest MMR mid. What Boom has is this understanding of each other, and this is why they play the way they do. They have this understanding of each other that's very deep because they're not just teammates, they're friends. Because Booms and Skem and Yopaj have been friends for a long time. Tims has been a friend to a lot of Filipino players for a long time, although I believe there's some drama there, but it's out of the topic. But Tims is a very approachable guy. I ordered my parts from him. He's like, all right, I'll send the parts over to you. Pay me when it's there. I'm like, really? You're going to ship it to me? He's that friendly. Tims is a very kind guy. FBZ, he's a bit more withdrawn, but he's friendly. He's friendly too. He makes friends fast. We talk a little bit, not as much as the others. Jackie is a very memey guy. And they have this bond that was there. Maybe not so strong before the team was formed, but staying together has definitely helped solidify that bond. And we've seen this with T1 before, right? Because of how long that roster of T1 has been together in some shape or form. We've always had March together with Cuckoo for a while. We've had Whitemon and Zephyr for a while. That entire equation, and 23 Savage with them as well for a very long time. They knew how each person played. They were friends outside of the game. And I think that we're at the point where, I think we've discussed this before, but Dota is beyond just a individual game. It's a team game. And that understanding as a team has to come in. And I think for Fnatic, I think that's where my main issue lies. It's not a critique on them saying, oh, you guys are just too cold to each other. No, I don't know the circumstances they face. They're all together now. They seem really happy together. And I wish I got to see them happy together much earlier to really form the bonds they need. Because there's only so much you can form online when, you threw this team together in December. It's been a breakneck pace for that Fnatic lineup. Having them physically together in the same spot, focused in together, talking, sharing meals, learning more about each other and feeling good about each other, becoming friends. I think that's what helps. It actually improves your gameplay. And I think that's something Fnatic needed to do earlier. I want to be able to see... I want to see them happy. I want to see them laughing. I want to see them bonding. And again, when I did their media day interviews with John Yuel, everyone was there. Pau was standing in the back. Raven was there. Polo was there, sitting at the side. Jabs was peeking in. They were all happy. But this needed to happen so much earlier for Fnatic. And I think now that it's there, if they keep working on that team bonding synergy, because that's what I keep hearing, you know, they're like still working on each other. Once that improves, I can say that they're a much more solid team. Not quite yet there. You know, as Zach is pointing out as well, shower bonding. I know for a fact, Zach, Tim's has already outed Yopaj as a guy who doesn't shower. Polaris has outed Yopaj and Nico as guys who don't shower. So no shower bonding for Boom because you guys don't shower. But you know, that maybe Fnatic's into shower bonding. No judgment there. But yeah, I think that
wrong with that
bonding needs to be there, Mike. I mean, look at SMG. Look at SMG. When they came in to Tour 2, I expected them to not even be contenders. You know, honestly. I love Mike. Yeah. I love Ninja Bogey. I didn't think it was an upgrade over Raji. I've been proven wrong, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. And it's down to the team the team chemistry. Ninja Bogey went there for the first few weeks. He wasn't, and when he's there, you can see how happy they all are. He's just chilling out. He's having fun. Afu's very happy to have him. Mid1's very happy to have him. And it's about teams now. It's not just about players. It's about how well your team works with each other. And I think that's also, you know, going a bit beyond Div 1 and shilling my own team. I think that's why Talon's also doing really great, right? Like they're all together a lot longer. Mikado Hyde have been friends for a while. KP's integrated into that really well. They've got Savage and Q, who are much more soft-spoken but very easy to get along with kind of players. And Forev's the glue holding them together really well. And I think that's where the coach also plays a part, where your coach is not just this guy who teaches you the game. He also has to teach you how to be a team. And that's where we're seeing the Chuan effect, the Mushi effect, the March effect kick in. So all of these factors kick in. Sunbee's a great coach. And now he has that opportunity to make them work together. And I think that's what we've got to see all these teams evolve in the case of your question, Fnatic. That's where they really have to evolve as a team, Mike.
I just want to get behind him is what I'm saying, right? And like, I just want one major, one event, not even a major. It can be any fucking tournament. Just one event where Fnatic looks like they're going to go on a run just so we can get behind them and be like, okay. Because they've got great players. It's a great roster of players. It's not the skill from these players that's lacking. I don't think it's the drafting that's lacking either. I agree with you, in fact. I think it is more team cohesion. I think they need to relax a bit. You know, relax those shoulders. You know? Fix that posture up a bit. Smile. Yeah, you know, that's why we made this comment when T1 first started, right? Cuckoo, he's a great captain because he makes you laugh. There's always a smile on his face. If something goes wrong, yeah, he can look a bit serious, but at the same time, usually he's trying to crack a joke and have a laugh. That's what the difference is. And you look at Fnatic, who's that guy? Who's the guy that makes you laugh in Fnatic? Who is it?
I think in this case, it's got to be Zhao. I think he's a pretty funny guy. And again,
right,
Zhao, I don't know how close he was to everyone else. I'm sure there maybe is some interaction with Armel and DJ. But, you know, he's a fresh face. To have him step into the captain role. Again, for Fnatic, it's time. And if they spent Tour 1 together in a boot camp, I don't think we'd be saying the same things. I think they would have looked a lot hotter. But it took them until Tour 2 and like 2 weeks into Tour 2. So we'll see the payoff of that eventually. But is it enough for the major performance? I don't think so. And as much as I again, I think they're improving. I think they're happy together. Is it enough for me to be confident in the major run? No. And I think if Fnatic do make it, I'd love them to prove me wrong, Mike. I'd love to see them prove me wrong.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's what we're asking for. In case anyone from Fnatic is somehow listening, we are asking to be proven wrong. That's what we want. Please prove us wrong. If you do make it to the major, perform like you've never performed before. So John and I can come on to the same podcast and be like, how stupid did we look a couple weeks ago? You know, that's what we want to be able to say. Still, I mean, I still kind of go with the team list you gave, though. I mean, if you ask me honestly what teams I would prefer to be at the major, I'd say T1, Boom, Polaris. Even a team like SMG, if they made it, I'd be happy, to be honest. Only because I feel like these are dark horses that could go on a run, and they could really mess things up when it comes to playoff brackets, right? Like Polaris Esports is a team you would underestimate. If you're an international team, like a big team like OG, Secret, Nigma, Liquid, whatever the fuck else, right? You're not looking at Polaris Esports and thinking, God damn, we got to worry about these guys. You know, we don't know what they're up to. We got to be careful. You're going to underestimate them. Like they did for Boom Esports during Gamers Galaxy. You underestimate them, they tend to perform. Same thing happened for T1. Nobody's paying attention, right? Which is the beauty for the SEA region is nobody's paying attention most of the time when it comes to the EU, and maybe China pays attention. I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, my point is I'd like to have dark horses that not necessarily go on a run, but just mess up the brackets a little bit. You know, knock a big team out in lower bracket is what I'm saying. And I think Polaris is one of those teams that could do that. And, you know, I'd love to see Polaris go on a run, but chances are it'd be more like Boom or T1 that are going through the upper bracket. And do I say it right here, John? I think SEA is winning this major. I mean, I'm going to just go ahead and say it. I think SEA is going to win the major no matter. If Boom and T1 are there, one of those teams is going to win the major. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. More than likely, Boom. I know Lane's in the chat. I'm not jinxing crap, Lane. Trust me, we're going to have electricity at the venue. Everything's going to be fine. We've got this. The major's ours. You just got to get there. Get us there, Lane. You got a car. Get us to that damn major.
Could you imagine, though, like, if a power outage happened only to Boom in a major? That's just, no, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen for sure. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Boom T1 have what it takes. You know what I want to say? By Tour 3, I think Talon's got what it takes. I'm not even, you know, just throwing it as in because they're my team. I think Talon's got what it takes. So watch out, Tour 3. That's going to be something else. By Tour 3, I'd say Boom, Talon, T1. That's my new roster. That's my new lineup. I think Talon's great. I think Boom's going to be a scary opponent. Lane, you got to be ready for my boys. Gary, you got to whip them into shape. Mushi, you got to watch out. Forev's a mean Korean, just like on T1 with March. And Forev is probably a little bit meaner because he's much more tough guy looking, although he's a sweetheart. But yeah, by Tour 3, watch out for Talon. But hopefully I'm not jinxing any of these teams.
You haven't made it yet. You are not in. I mean, Army Geniuses, they're behind you guys right now. They're coming. And I mean, you can't forget, John, RSG's still there. AG, Talon, they have an RSG game coming up, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
April 14th, Talon versus RSG. One of those teams has to lose. You said this the other day. One of these teams has to lose in that matchup. And I'm just saying, if a team like AG suddenly just starts playing their minds out and wins every game, and then Talon or RSG, if they lose a second series, suddenly we don't know what's happening, John. So I hope you haven't jinxed them. I'd love to see Talon in upper division because, you know, I feel like there needs to be a bit more competition upper div as well, right? Like the bottom two teams right now, they're just not looking too flash hot, especially Execration. Execration just don't. Okay, I don't want to pick on them, but they don't look like they deserve to be there right now. I'll be frank.
I feel bad about that too because I keep hyping up Tino, and I'll be honest, I still think Tino's a really good offlaner. Because again, before he went into Boom, he actually looked like a really good offlane, and that was him switching from Pause 1 anyway. I don't know what's happened in between. I'm not sure what's up. Boom will play against Execration soon, which is going to be a pretty... I had a really good interview with Tino, and Tino is such a kind guy. You know, he's such a good guy to talk to. At the end, he only had one message. I don't want to spoil it, but it's not the kind of... It wasn't even smack talk. He's just such a good friend that he actually wished him good luck. And like, sincerely, you know, not in the funny where it's like, good luck, we're going to smash. You know, it's just like, good luck, guys. You know, it's like, Tino's such a great guy. And Execration's this team with like a lot of potential. You know what other team has a lot of potential though? I feel like Neon. I am so sad that Neon's potentially getting relegated because when they look good, when these young players are on point, man, do they look insane. Jing yesterday, he had these insane snipes onto Carl with his hoodwink. Without the bushwhack setup, he was just guessing. It's like, it's madness. His Mirana's really good. And the avatar mode can look really good in his mid. Chuan just coaches them really well. They're bonding great. But I feel like it's not good enough to hold, you know, and unfortunately, I think the Div 2 teams going up for promotion look a lot hotter. So it's a shame. You can only fit so many teams in Div 1, Mike. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But hopefully Neon sticks together. My one concern for Neon is that they get to Div 2 and they implode. I'm hoping not, because I think with a coach like Chuan, this is a team that can really improve.
No, look, Neon's rebuilt their team. OB Neon's rebuilt their team many times now, and it goes back to that one trade, and it's good that Lane's here, right? Like, Lane's here to hear me say this. I remember, and I hope Rob's listening. I remember saying to Rob, do not let your Persian skim get poached. Don't let it happen, right? It was ESL 1 Thailand, I think it was. OB Neon went on a decent run. Paj was just showing off as usual. I think Skem was just showing off as usual as well. And I specifically said on panel, do not let these players get poached. They're too good. OB Neon could be a real team, a real big contender. At the end of the day, I believe they got paid out good money. I don't know the exact amounts. Pretty good money, right? Very big money.
I don't think I can say, but it is a big amount. One of the bigger trades. I think the biggest trade in Southeast Asia. So Gary dug deep in those NFT coffers to get that done. But as I said when I talked to Papa Dejet, best trade in Southeast Asia. 100% the best buyout you could ask for going into Boom. I mean, it's still heartbreaking. You remember that time when they let go of DreamOCell? They let go of all our boys. But I saw the people they had, and then word got out, teams was coming in. You knew that no matter who was on Pos 1, that was a team that was just going to win. You just knew it. Yeah. You couldn't go wrong. And it was a ridiculous amount, but Gary with the NFT money, man, to the moon. He used it well.
Couple of bored apes, and suddenly you've got yourself your Persian Skev on your team. It's nothing like it, Jonathan. There you go. With that, I want to go back. I mean, we talked about this last week, John, but I've got to quickly bring it up because I feel like I really want to get this second show of ours started, or even the same show.
Yes.
Whatever it is, I want an interview series happening. Ladies and gentlemen, if you aren't aware, our intention was we were going to pull VT Faded on for a first episode of an interview series where John and I just talk to pro players, coaches, whatever the fuck else. Whoever wants to show up, whoever's of interest, right? VT Faded said yes, then later on said no, because we kind of revealed that, hey, look, we're probably going to ask you some hard questions. If you're innocent, you'll be able to answer them. If you're not innocent, you're going to look like an idiot. He doesn't want to do it. Fair enough. I respect that.
Yep.
Fair enough. You don't want to put your career up on the line like that. I appreciate that. But I still want to get this show running. I still want either... I want to add guests to this once in a while, or I want a separate show.
Yes.
Should we bring Lane on? Lane's here right now. Lane, do you want to come on to it?
Let's make it double whammy.
Do you want to be on a podcast?
Let's make it double whammy. We'll drag Lane and we'll drag either a player, or we'll drag in Gary. And I think Lane plus Gary is actually going to be a very lit combo. You know, I think that would be fun. Have Gary in, have his manager trash talk him live. It's going to be great. I think if Lane's down for it, we'll have that. Gary's always down. He was wanting to have that cast with me and DreamOCell. Instead, DreamOCell's like, no, you're a boomer. Get away. Shoo. You know, Randy, I'm not a boomer, man. Well, I am a boomer. That's why I should have been in that boom thing, but I think that's... I'm just kidding. No hard feelings, Randy. People take it seriously. We kid around a lot, me and Randy. We're good friends, but yeah, it's like... Would be nice. I think we'll settle that, but if you're down for it, I know you're listening there, or if you're listening to the recording on YouTube or Spotify, we'll have you in sometime, and we're going to have some fun.
Lane said yes.
There you go.
Lane said yes. I'm happy to join. That's it, Lane. Congratulations. We'll send you the date. Congratulations, so you're locked in. You'll be on the first episode, and hopefully we can get Gary as well. I mean, I have some words to say to Gary. I'm unhappy with Gary right now, John. You know, I've got some words for Gary right now, so I'd love to bring Gary on to have a conversation with him about,
you don't got this. Being made. You don't got this.
It is a nice sticker. I'll give you that. It is a nice damn sticker. All right. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Live on air, we've asked Zach, aka Lane, who's the manager or coach? He's the manager, right? Of Boom Esports.
She's the coach.
All right, don't talk to me like that, John. I can't remember every single person. He's the manager of Boom. We'll try to get Gary, who's the actual CEO of Boom Esports. We'll see if he has the time in his busy NFT schedule to come online and talk with us a bit, and maybe explain to John why NFTs are better than he thinks. I highly doubt he gets away with that, but I'd love to get him started. Yeah. Well, there you go, John. We'll get that started. We'll give him a date sometime, and maybe if we're lucky, we can get it. And I don't want to risk them losing, but if maybe we could try to get it before Boom vs T1 just to add some spice. Though, again, I feel like if they somehow end up losing to T1, which I say somehow, but it could be likely, maybe we're at fault for forcing an interview show on them. So. We'll see what happens, I guess.
We'll see. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's not all jinxed, Mike. I feel like if I was jinxing Boom, I've been jinxing them since they formed, because I've been saying that they're number one for like 5 months now. So hey, it's not kicking in for me yet, the caster's curse, and that's looking good. I think there's a natural segue here, Mike, for us to have. There's an elephant in the room as we approach the major, Mike. 2 elephants in the room.
What is it, John?
EU DPC has not kicked off. China's delayed for 2 more weeks. So what does that imply for the majors? What do you think? What do you think happens to that Stockholm major now?
Well, there's not enough time anymore, right? For the at least for China DPC, you don't have enough time to run it, right? Like, well, they delayed by another 2 weeks, so that kind of implies 20 something of April is when it starts. I believe the majors on like the somewhere in
11th,
May, right? Like
yeah.
the 10th, 11th, 12th,
Yeah.
something like that. So there's no time. So I think the only option you have now, which is kind of ironic because everyone's been complaining about the DPC format, but the one big option you have now is you run a decently sized tournament for China and EEU, right? And the top whatever of that tournament makes it to the main. I mean, what else are you going to do? What else can you do? Like, you're not just going to exclude China and Eastern Europe, right? You're going to have to bring him in somehow. So why not just do what everyone wants you to do anyway and run a bit of a test run with the DPC? Just choose a big, like, Swiss format or whatever the hell else, like, whatever they call it, whatever everyone likes, and just run a huge tournament for, like, 2 weeks or even just 1 week. Just run group stage into playoffs and, like, top 2, top 3 teams just makes it, you know? And just the prize pool's there. You've got 150, whatever the hell it is, as prize pool for this tournament. And that's the only way you can do it now, surely. And even then, it might have to be online. It might just have to all be online.
The question now is, potentially with China not being able to make the major, so there are 2 more slots there, 3 more slots free. EEU not having DPC at all means 2, 3 slots free. What do you do with the extra slots? Does that mean we give 1 to each region that's left? 2 to some regions? Will we see more C teams? What do you think happens there? If this major push is true, which, seeing how ESL is organized, already selling tickets, it looks likely to go true regardless. What do you think happens with that, Mike? What's your take?
Do I like an extra slot being given to each region? I don't know. It's kind of cool, right? Like, it's not like we've ever had a tournament like that, I guess, like a DPC tournament. So, like, what? So you're going to have, what, 6 slots in total between China and EEU? Like, 3 slots each, right? So there's 6 slots in total. If none of the teams made it to the major because they just can't play. So 6 slots total. How many regions does it leave? SA, NA, SCA, EU, like WEU, right? So then you have 4 regions, 6 slots. I'm not going to do the math. Whatever. It's like 1 to 2 extra slots every region.
Yep.
It's interesting. I think you'd have to do wildcards or something, right? Like, I don't know if you just go ahead and, like, choose the next best team of each region. I feel like you do wildcards and, like, for example, for the European fans, they're going to hope for a Enigma or a Secret to pull off a miraculous win and make it through. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what every tournament organizer would want, right? Whether they say it or not, they want Enigma to make it because Enigma gets crazy high viewership. They want OG there. They want Secret there. Everyone wants it, right? I want it even because I want to see them get destroyed by these SEA teams. I want them there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you've got to find a way to bend the rules almost. And I know this sounds very immoral, but you've got to find a way to bend the rules to give them an opportunity to try and make it for the sake of us having a really good major. Otherwise, people are going to just, there's no China, it's going to be boring. There's no Eastern Europe, it's going to be boring. Like, I don't know. Is that bad, John? Is that the way to do it, like wildcard slots?
I think wildcard slots are the way. What do we mean by wildcard? Like, each region plays a wildcard for that extra slot? Because I feel like that's the most exciting way. I mean, there is 2 leave. This is where it gets tough for the scheduling. Like, end of DPC, you only have 2 weeks until major. So that leaves ESL in a very tight spot when it comes to some of these teams from visas. So I'm not sure how viable that would be. Because that makes it exciting. Because I don't think you should just give it to number 4 in every region, right? That's just boring. Number 4, sometimes that slot is tied up and there are no tiebreakers for 4, 5, 6 because they're not really binding. I mean, there are some points differences, but you just kind of use a different rubric instead of playing tiebreakers. So there should be wildcards. Is there time? I don't think so. And that's again where the schedule comes in. Maybe they could make it happen. I would love to see that happen. It would be exciting. It would get a lot of viewership in. I don't know if ESL has the ability to push back the major now as well to accommodate, because again, the schedule's so tight, man. Like, again, it's only 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. like it gets really tight with the next DPC. I don't know. I think even for China, if their DPC still ran, considering the travel restrictions, it feels like the teams might not even make it in. Like again, they have to do like 1 month quarantine before heading back home. It doesn't feel like it's feasible. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's looking like a bit of a mess. But I feel like ESL's not going to be backing off. If they do, we're in a very bad spot if they back off, Mike. We're in a very, very bad spot if ESL backs off. Like, what do we do?
No, they can't.
They can't.
No, they can't. I mean, there's no way. Like, you can't. No more of this cancellation bullshit. We have to ride with it. I know it sucks if China and EEU can't make it. It's terrible. But you just can't. There's no more of these cancellations, no more of these delays. Like, it's becoming inexcusable at some point. Like, I know we're still in a pandemic, but I watch other esports titles still doing what they need to do. At this point, you just move on. Okay, we can't have Chinese teams. Shit happens. We can't have EEU. Shit happens. We move on. Like the show must go on. That's the golden rule. The show always goes on no matter what. By the way, thanks for the correction, people in chat. China actually has 4 slots. As you can tell, John and I don't watch the region very often these days. We're busy with Southeast Asia. But besides the point, if you're gonna have extra slots, just do wildcards. You know, get Nigma in, get Secret in. Everyone wants to watch these teams anyway. Just get them in somehow. You know, get an extra SCA team or 2. You know, maybe we can have an SMG or a Polaris or a Fnatic come in if one of them doesn't qualify. And whatever, just run a big tournament that doesn't include every region, but what can you do? I mean, obviously, there might have to be changes in terms of DPC points, and you might have to give, like, almost a handicap in terms of qualifying to TI for, like, China and Eastern Europe, based off the fact that they are probably just going to have to miss the second major now. But what can you do? It's what can you do? It's you either do that or you cancel the show for the sake of fairness and we just delay it again. But it's just you can't keep delaying shows like this. Like, it's not good. It's not a good look. It's a fucking terrible look. You can't do it. I don't care if it's only 2 regions getting to qualify at this major. You can't cancel the show anymore. It can't. Yeah. It can't happen. It's too detrimental to the community these days.
Yeah.
It's too detrimental.
And it feels terrible. Like, again, we see CSGO, they have a major. You see Valorant, no issues with having stuff. In as much as it pains you to say that every single time, Mike, we've got to have something. Please. Even if those 2 regions can't go, we've got to go through. I'm hoping at this point Valve's worked on a contingency for the DPC point spread and stuff like that. And, you know, they get that in before the end of the DPC. We start to find out if we're going to have wildcards, you know, or whatever system they want for the slots. So, yeah. I just want to see it happen, dude. I just want to see it land again. Like, Dubai was so good. I'm sure Stockholm will be lit. There's going to be a crowd, or so they say. So it should be good. And if they cancel it again, I think that's a bit of a death knell. I think that's the point where a lot of teams, like Boom, will be like, well, we just placed first. You know, if they do, you know, assumingly. Well, we placed top 3 twice in a row, and we still haven't hit a LAN. We've played a LAN in Dubai that's not even DPC. What the hell's the point? You know, you start to feel that way. So we need it to happen.
Well, of course you do. And the thing is as well, what was it? It was WePlay that organized the Dubai LAN as well. And they're, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're Ukraine based, right? So this is a tournament, this is a production company at the least, that's in a country that's involved in a war right now, and they're still able to produce a show like that. But you're telling me we have to cancel the next major? But I won't accept it. If I see the post, the major's been delayed or cancelled, I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what to say. I know it's not fair to the regions that can't make it. I would be very mad if SCA suddenly couldn't fly out to the major. I'd be so mad. I wouldn't expect them to cancel the show though. I just wouldn't expect. I just carry on. You know, you've got to just give them some DPC points. Or just make it just make this year TI qualifiers like it used to be. I don't know, just do something like that at this point. Like, I don't know. Oh, it's upsetting me thinking about it. Like the possibility that that's gonna happen is just pissing me off as we speak. What is it, John? You're smiling. What have you seen?
I'm just, I'm just seeing chat. I'm just thinking about what Lane is thinking about again. People still going on about electricity, but yeah, it should. It shouldn't be canceled. I don't think ESL is in a position to cancel as well. Like considering again they've booked the place, they've sold tickets, they've settled contracts with their talent already on hand. Yeah, it's not cancelable. If it does, I don't know what to say. Like I'm scared. I'm scared of that possibility, and I'm hoping it does not happen, because if it does, oh man, nothing good comes out of that, Mike. Absolutely nothing good comes out of it.
People are gonna say like it's just not gonna be the same without China and EU. I get it, right? But I dare anyone out there watching right now to tell me you don't want the major to go on. Like no matter what, you want the major to carry on. It's still going to be exciting, Dota. Yes, it's probably going to be a bit shitty without China EU. China generally has a really interesting meta that when you put onto an international stage, it tends to be very exciting to watch, whatever. I get it. Can't cancel the show. It can't happen anymore. It's just getting kind of pathetic at this point if we keep canceling shows over and over again because one country can't make it or one region can't. Like, shit happens. We're in the middle of a fucking pandemic. We have been for years now. It's time to move on. A real sport. I mean, it kind of upsets me as well. I can't believe we're going back to this pandemic topic. But it kind of upsets me as well that you can have contact sports that still carry on as they are. Like contact sports, right? We're talking rugby league, we're talking the NFL in America, basketball, the NBA. We have literal contact sports. We went from saying nobody can be a few meters, everyone has to be a few meters apart, wearing masks, all that crap. I'm like, that was cool with me. I get it. We're in a pandemic. It's a dangerous virus. We're at the stage now where countries literally put all that shit aside and said, fuck it. Let's go play some NBA. Let's go play some NFL. Australia's got the rugby league going on. Let me tell you, John, it's a lot of contact that happens, right? The AFL in Australia, whatever you want to watch. But you're telling me we can't host Dota lands anymore? Like when we have to we're literally sitting in front of a screen with a keyboard mouse and we can't host the LAN anymore. But they can go play they can play football, tackling each other into the ground over and over again without masks or anything. I mean, 90% of the guys aren't even vaccinated. I can tell you right now, John, right? Because they're not the brightest bunch. They play rugby league, right? They get a lot of contact to their head. But you're telling me that they can literally hug each other for hours on end. But I can't watch a Dota LAN. You see how ridiculous it sounds, right?
Yeah.
You see how ridiculous. Like, we can't get some wet wipes and just wipe down the keyboards and shit, wipe down the table. Like, I don't know, dude. I'm tired, John. I need some LANs. I need to watch some Dota. I'm tired.
We've got to see it. And hopefully, I mean, ESL hasn't made any notice that it's not going to happen. Yeah, they haven't hinted that there are delays because of the adjustments to the DPC. So, looking like it should be good. I don't think but you never know. So, hopefully it holds up. And hopefully we get our major. I can't believe it's going to be our first DPC major of the year. That's kind of nuts. We're in April now, hitting May. Kind of nuts. But yeah, it is the way it is, Mike. Hopefully we'll have that major. And hopefully we see Boom win. Or T1 win. Or Southeast Asia win. I'll take anyone from CA. Let's go.
Oh, we're winning. I mean, it's not even a question of it's just which team wins, right? We know SCA is gonna win. I've already. You'll see me, John. Once this major gets started, I'll get on Twitter. We do it every single time. We'll start going against the Europeans and the Americans and whatever else, and just have a bit of fun. Still, hopefully it happens. If it doesn't happen, there's going to be a very, very, very angry podcast episode coming up. And I know some people already commented that I've started molding. Let me assure you, I can do this for hours. I mean, I can get real upset if I need to. So hopefully we don't come to that, though. Hopefully we have a brilliant major on the way in Stockholm, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very exciting. John, we are heading to the tail end of the podcast. It's been about 1.5 hours now. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we start wrapping up?
I think I agrees that I think I really only wanted to talk about that possibility with major slots, the major going through. Anything else that popped out recently? Not much beyond, I guess, ranting about Elden Ring. It's fun. I'll say it again. You should probably play Elden Ring, Mike. You should probably stream yourself playing Elden Ring, Mike. Everyone would love to see that.
Thing. That is one thing. That is one thing I wanted to talk about, John. I apologize. I don't mean to switch the subject, but you brought up Elden Ring. So yesterday I was streaming for the lower division DPC.
Yes.
We were. What game were we even casting? I have such a terrible memory. What was it?
Lil Gun Army Geniuses.
Thank you, John. Lil Gun Army Geniuses. Apologies to Lil Gun and Army Geniuses. I just forget everyone, right? So we were casting, and I couldn't help but notice there was a few frame drops going on. Now, mind you, I've just had a 3070 Ti sent in by Slayer85, who may or may not be in the chat. Hopefully, if he is, he can say hello. But he was kind enough to go out of his way to send me a 3070 Ti brand new in the box, completely sealed, and he literally paid for it. He paid over $1,000 Australian to send me this card. So again, shout out to him for about the 1,000th time, right? So I put the card in, everything's great. Yesterday we're streaming. And now we use a bit of software in the production side for BTS, OBS. Some of you know what OBS is. There's some BTS software that we use for production. Now, to let you guys in on how bad things are right now in terms of my PC, apparently 100% of my CPU processing power is being used up constantly while we're streaming, right? Which is terrible. And then when I turned off the stream, to make matters worse, I thought it would get better once I turned off the stream, turned off Dota, whatever. It turns out the software I'm using, which I need to use, is taking like 55% CPU usage. So it's actually being limited by Dota and OBS, the streaming software being on. So now I ask you the question, John, and by the way, for anyone watching, this isn't me trying to get more people to donate fucking parts or anything. I don't want that to happen. I'm probably gonna, just end up saving some money, pay for it. But I'm in a place where I don't want to be right now, John. I'm in a shed right now. There's leaks going on. It's been raining a lot. The ceiling leaks. There's a lot of mold growing. But I'm in this complicated scenario where I need to end up building a new PC that can handle being able to stream the game smoothly, right? Which is no problem. I could literally go buy it right now if necessary. Again, thanks to Slayer, who has saved me over $1,000 on that build, which is what makes it possible for me to go ahead and buy it. But I don't want to build it in this fucking shed.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, there's a lot of moisture. There's mold growing everywhere. And we're going to move houses, hopefully within a month or two. And, generally speaking, when you move, you tend to break things, right? At least I do all the time. So what's the decision, John? How do what's the midway point where I can still offer a quality stream without having to build a brand new PC yet?
It's a toughie, Mike. The funny thing is, this is not something we can really fix because the software we use is the one eating up the CPU usage. Like, Mike's mentioned this, and I'll just relay this. When so he gets 100% CPU utilization, and after the stream, Mike kills Dota 2, right? So he tries to free it up. So we're just waiting for the switch over on stream. He kills Dota 2 to free up some CPU power. And the program we use for production just eats up the remaining amount of process that's freed up and still drags to 100% utilization. So there's not much we can do here, Mike. I think it's a game of patience. We just gotta wait till you're out of the shed, free of the mold, free of the mold, both of it, and start building that new PC. Not much.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, but the software is doing that. Dota 2 is actually, it's better now, but it's still pretty heavy on the CPU for whatever reason. And OBS is just naturally going to eat a little bit processing, so it's gonna be a little bit, Mike, until we can get that fixed up, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I was intending on starting to stream anyway, because I know a lot of people want to see the streams back, because again, people love seeing me mold in pub games and whatever. And I was just going to run like a donation thing there if people wanted to chip in, because I had so many people after hearing that Slayer donated that 3070 Ti to me. They were like, oh, I want to help out too. And I'm like, well, look, I'm not in the business of accepting gifts for free, It's not, I just don't like doing that. I don't feel comfortable doing it, right? So I thought to myself, at least if I can stream and have a standard kind of tipping jar or whatever, then we can make money that way. But yeah, you're in this weird situation where you're literally in a shed. And it's like, if I build a new PC now, knowing my luck, something stupid will happen, right? And I'll be so mad. Because I'm not planning to cheap out either, right? Like, we're going at minimum like 5900X, or whatever else. Like, we're getting the good shit. Because we like to provide quality products, and we want to provide more content for everyone. Like, John and I has been talking about a lot of content recently, but currently, at least, I'm hardware limited, I think, to allow us the things we've been wanting to do. Anyway, I guess I just want to kind of vent about that because I was kind of annoyed this morning. Like, I was thinking about it again, like, man, I was actually running at 100 CPU usage, like, for hours on end. It's kind of, it sounds really bad, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you're just waiting for smoke to start blowing out of the CPU, like the tower, you know what I mean? It's just, I'm waiting. I'm telling you, John, I'm waiting one day to start smelling smoke.
Hopefully not, Mike. Hopefully not. Now, when we do get that new PC, we got to get you a good cooler as well. So, we'll make sure we'll check in on that when the time comes. But yeah, 100% utilization. Good thing, at least, your cooler seems fine. It's not overheating, so you're not going to be on fire yet. If you had something, I'd say if you had a 4 series, like i7 4 series, those were pretty power hungry, if I recall right. Those might have been able to burn up. So very fortunate you weren't on the OG 4 series. I think those were pretty hot. But yeah, we'll get that fixed up next time. Maybe when you can start streaming a little bit in the free time, see the mod, get the tip jar out, and we'll be on our way, Mike.
Well, that was why I brought up the point in the first place, is because I wanted to play Elden Ring, and I can play it right now. Like, with the 3070 Ti, things are easy, can run it easily, right? But when it comes to streaming the game, it's probably going to struggle. Because again, feels like with this processor right now, it's just not keeping up with modern technology or whatever else. Which, again, it's perfectly fine. It's just a shitty living situation, where you're not in your own home, and so you don't want to make that investment. Even though it's kind of your job and you want to provide the best product possible for the viewers. But at the same time, it's going to be out of your pocket. And if something goes wrong, which I can almost guarantee it will with my luck, then it's just all down the toilet and we start all over again. And it's just disaster, Anyway, enough of that ranting. Going back to my question earlier, John, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I think I'm all clear. I think we've cleared a plate here for this week's content. Yeah, I think that's all I'd really want to get into. Pretty good coverage. You have any last points as well before we close out, Mike?
No, I mean, shout out to the people that have been watching. I mean, I have noticed we've had some really decent viewership over the past, I don't know, how many episodes are we up to now? 6, 7? Something like that?
7, I believe, yeah.
And I think viewership has been steadily climbing on YouTube and Spotify, and the Twitch stream has been pretty stable on roughly 220, 230 viewers. So I'm pretty happy with that. And well, like I said earlier, we are intending on releasing some more interesting content, on YouTube and things like that very soon, John and I. So hopefully you guys can enjoy that when the time does come. What I'm trying to say is thank you very much for all the support. We really do appreciate it. And people have been sending me messages saying they really enjoy the podcast and they enjoy the shit we talk about and the fact that we're not afraid to say how we feel and whatever else. So we appreciate that. But that's about it for me, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always. Do you want to do some kind of really cool outro, John? I know you must be very prepared for this.
I am never prepared, Mike. I barely am alive in the time that we have. But thank you for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you next time. If you're listening on YouTube or Spotify down the line, thank you for dropping by and subscribing to that. It's John Xfire here along with Mike LaPhoenix. We'll see you guys next time. Ciao.